Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today, Masechtas Ksubas daf Yud. We are going to begin on the very top of Yud Amud Aleph, the first line. Itmar. So we learn as follows: Omer of Nachman, Omer Shmuel. He said, Mishum Rav Shimon ben Elazar, in the name of Rav Shimon Elazar, the Chachamim tiknu lehem levnos Yisrael lebsul Masayim u'amana mana. That the Chachamim were the ones that instituted that when it comes to the writing of a ksuba, that when it comes to a woman who is a basula, that she will get 200, and for an almana, she would receive 100 zuz. The heim heminuhu, and they are also believed, because since this is only a din d'Rabbanan, shim omer pesach basuach matzasi neman, that when it comes to him saying pesach basuach, as we saw in yesterday's daf, then he's going to be believed not only to answer himself because of Shavah Nafsha Chaticha Yisura, but also for her to lose her ksuba. Im kein ma'ho'il chachamim b'tekantam. In that case, what is the whole purpose of the tekana? Says Rashi, tiknu lo ksuba. If he's going to be believed to have her lose her ksuba, so then why did they institute this at all? So Marava chazaka edam terech basuda maseda. Because the truth is, this is not something which a person will typically do. They're not going to say that Pesach Basuach Matzasi or have a Tainus Basulim in the event that they spent an exorbitant amount of money in order to be able to provide for a Sudas Chasana. And therefore the person wouldn't do this unless he probably is telling the truth. Tana. Hoyel Kenas Chachamim, who since it was a penalty, Lotigva El Minaziboidis. Therefore she only collects her ksuba from the most inferior of land. Fret the Gemara, Kanasa, my Kanasa, what do you mean a penalty? El Emahoyel, the Takanas Chachamim, who, since it was instituted rabbinically, Lotigva Elwa Min Hazibayris. Therefore, again, we're going to have her only collect from the most inferior of lands. The truth is, a ksuba is not a din d'Rabbanan, but it's actually from the Torah. What do you mean? Does he actually say that this is the din bosanya? The pasuk says, "Kesev yishkol kimoyhar habasulois," that she will take money just like the kimoyhar habasulois. So the question is, what does that mean? So we say shehezeh kimoyhar habasulois, that we say that she falls under the same category of kimoyhar habasulos, as Rashi says, "Amr b'minus as a basula." A person who rapes a basula, konsu hakosav nun kesef. So there's a penalty that you have to pay 50 kesef for having done so. Bishvil moyher basula saha. The fact that you have defiled her from being a basula. So the Gemara says, so what's the drasha? So you say shehezeh k'mor habasulos, so moyser habasulos kazeh. So that we say that when it comes to this woman who's married in general, has the same din as a woman who's ma'anis. Says Rashi, Hikash Kosav Kanas Mafata Kanas Oinus. We connect a woman who is Oinus and a Mafata. Malho Nun Afkan Nun, Mal Kesav Homer Kan Shkolim. So it's the same. Mikan Somcha Chachamim Ksubas Ishim in a Torah. So we learn out from here that there is a din of ksuba from the Torah. So again, the fact that it's called moyhar habasulos, so therefore we see it's a mocker in the Torah, this notion of a ksuba. But again, when it comes to oinus mafata, we compare the two, and this hekesh is to say that the din is 50 that's required to be paid, and also when it says kesev, it has to be shkol. And this is the reason why we brought this down. He said beferish, not that it's a din deraisa, but it's a din d'Rabbanan. So how could we say before that he holds it's a din deraisa? He says beferish it's medivir sefer. So epoch, you're right. You have to flip it around, and therefore, obviously, because of this stira, you have to change the shitas. How do we know to switch the bottom one, switch the first statement? So because in fact the first statement is correct. We know elsewhere that he holds that when it comes to a ksuba, the din is it's a din deraisa. How do we see this elsewhere? Did not Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, he says, "Noisin la mimois kaputkia." You're supposed to give her from the money of kaputkia. So what is this referring to? So Rashi quotes that at the end of our Masechta, it's written, "Nasi ish Eretz Yisrael." let's say a person marries a woman in Israel, but Gerisha Kaputkia, but they get divorced in a different location. So then is Noisin Mois Eretz Yisrael Shin Kalois. So you should give the money from Eretz Yisrael, which is Kalois, which is literally lighter or less. Nasi Ishim Kaputkia. If a person first got married a woman in Kaputkia, but Gerish Eretz Yisrael, Noisin Mois Eretz Yisrael. So according to this is, as we go lenient in both situations, no matter where they started or ended, we always will have her paid based on the exchange rate, if you will, of that of Eretz Yisrael, because we go lenient. No. Since it's like where the loan took place at the time of the marriage in Kaputkia, therefore this ksuba, that's where how much you have to pay. So therefore it must be the fact that he's saying that there's this chumrah, it must be that he holds ksubas deraisa. Therefore we're going to switch the second and not the first of his statements. Truth is, all of the statement is the same person. Just words missing, so I'm supposed to read it. So from here we rely on ksuva, that based on the chachamim, that a ksuva of a woman is from the Torah. Ksuvas almana ain't a medivrei Torah, el medivrei seifrim. However, that's only when it comes to a basula. However, when it comes to almana, in that situation, it's medivrei seifrim. How do we see this? Ksuvas almana ain't a medivrei Torah, el medivrei seifrim. So when it comes to a ksuva for a basula, you're right, it's min Torah. However, when it comes to almana, then the din is it is only Medivrei Seifrim. So let's look at a question over here. We move to question 9. What is the difference if you hold iksubas deraisa d'Rabbanan? They asked you to give at least 2 of 3 answers. We're going to do all 3. So first of all, if a person is tain pesach b'suach matzasi, so he'd be believed to cause her to lose the ksuba because ksuba is only d'Rabbanan, or dina b'zibayris Mishum Diksuba Rabbanan, that she'll get the most inferior of lands, or Nasi Shiba Kaputkia, if you married someone in Kaputkia and she got divorced in Eretz Yisrael, so we give her based on the money of Eretz Yisrael, Mishum Diksuba Rabbanan. That was question 9. So those are the 3 nafkaminas, whether Ksuba is Derais the Rabbanan, what the outcome would be. Okay. Now the Gemara continues and says the following situation. Yahu, there was an individual, Yosef made a Rav Nachman. So went in front of Rav Nachman, and he said, Pesach Masuach Matsasi, as we've been talking about, that he claimed that this woman, in fact, was not a Basula. So Rav Nachman said, Asbuhu Kufri, let's give him lashes with thorns. And not only that, it's clear mivarachasa chavitale, that a zona, that she's like a zona by him, says Rashi. Zus ha'ir hazay shishma mibirchasa mi'achar shu baki b'pesach pasuach. So he said, how is it that you're able to make this claim? You're not really supposed to be a man who's ever been with another woman before. So if that's the case, the fact that you're such a baki in Pesach Pasuach must be that you're testifying. The question is, Rasha, that's the whole question. But nonetheless, he gave him Malchus. So I Rav Nachman who do Mehimin. What do you mean? I thought he's believed. So Mehimin, yeah, we do believe him. However, because he's saying the statement, we must be none like kufr, we're going to give him Malchus. Rab Achoi Mishani says it depends. Kan b'bachar, kan b'nosoi. If you're a bachar, so you have no business knowing this, the fact that you would know to be able to make a taina pesach b'suach is a raya that you must have been with a zayna, and therefore we're going to give you malchus. However, if you were married, so okay, you were previously married, so this is your second marriage, so you already a baki in pesach b'suach, and therefore you have a right to be able to make this statement. We believe you're not going to get malchus. Who also committed Rabbi Gamliel? Armalei Pesach Masuach Masasi. Again, they said this to him. Armalei Shema Hitisa. It's very possible that maybe, again, you're mistaken in the way that you had Bia. It was not a direct tashmish. A person's walking in the pitch black darkness, and he slants in. He has a slants inside. Matzah pasuach, he finds it's opened. Lo hita, if he doesn't slant, matzah noil, then you'll find it closed. In other words, based on the way that you were having tashmish, it's very possible that gave you the impression of Pesach pasuach. Maybe you had tashmish that are b'mezid in this way, the akris ladasha of avra, and you actually literally ripped out the door in its bar. Person's going in the dark. So hita b'mezid, if he did it on purpose, matzah pasuach, the door is going to be open. Lo hita b'mezid, matzah noil. So again, maybe you had bia in this way b'mezid in order to give the impression of Pesach pasuach, but maybe in fact she was not, and she actually is a basul like she claims. Hahudi also committed a gamliel. Bar Rabbi, Amalei Rabbi, Bi'alti v'matzasi dam. So this is like Tainus damim, that I had bia and I didn't find any dam. So Amalo Rabbi basul hayisi. So she says, no, I was a basul. So Amalahem haviuli aiso sudar, bring me that sheet, that cloth. So haviul, they brought to him hasudar. So he soaked it in water, the kivsu, and laundered it. And he found that there was actually spots of blood. So in fact, it just wasn't recognizable at the time. However, he was able to see, because it was covered up with shechva zera, there was actually dam down there. So go and literally merit in your acquisition, because she in fact is a basula. Amalei huna marbered rava mi parzakya ravashi anan nami David hachi. So that's a great way of getting around this problem. Maybe we should do the same thing. Amalei, as we continue on Yudam and Beis, it's not so simple for you to do it, because gihuts shalanu, our pressing, is kikibus shalahem, is like your laundry, says Rashi. Shayim mehem yofim l'chaves, because our water is very clear and clean for laundering. V'iyamrit nevid gihuts, so we'll just do gihuts, we'll just press. So mavrole chum rasa. So what ends up happening is, Rashi says shavshif evan mavris hadam, that the pressure will end up causing the blood to be removed. So actually it may be more problematic, because the way you do it, it'll give the impression that there was no dam there at all, and therefore, even though she really was a basula. So because he was able to do it based on his cleansing agents and his water, that's why he was able to do this. Hahu de also kameder Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Omer le Rabbi be'altim u'motzasi dam. Again, they had a claim of Tainus damim. Somerle, Rabbi, adayim besulani, I'm still a besul. Somerlehen, haviuli shtei shefachais, bring me 2 maidservants. Achas besul v'achas be'ul. This is brought down in the Yevamos. One girl who was a besul, one woman who was a be'ula. So haviulo, they brought him these 2 women. V'oshivan al pi chavya shel yayin, and they both sat on this barrel of wine. Be'ula reicha noidif. The be'ula, the smell somehow went from her bottom all the way up to her mouth, and it could be smelled. Besul in reicha noidif. So avzu hayshiva v'loy reicha noidif. So the smell didn't come out, and therefore it was an indicator, just like that basula, so too was she. So I have a nivdak mi kara begava. Why don't you just try the kala directly? Why did you first bring a 2 shvachais and then test one's a basul, one's a ba'ul, and just do it right away if it works? So Gemara havi shemile, he heard about this, masal havi chazi, but never actually did it. The summer dimul kimle begava milsa shop, the milsa shopper, maybe it won't work so well. We're not going to do anything that's going to be mazalzel b'nos Yisrael unless we're definitive that it's going to work. So therefore, if it works, now it works, we can bring this girl. However, before that, we don't want to embarrass her. Again, There's no blood here. So Rabbi mishpachas dorkati ani. I come from this family. Shein lehen lo dam nida v'lo dam b'sulim. It's just the reality of my family that for whatever reason we don't have any blood. But I was a b'sula. He looked into her family. Indeed, and it was exactly as she said. You should go and be very happy with the marriage that you just had. Ashrecha, praiseworthy are you, shezachisel mishpachas dorkati. You're so lucky to have such a wife. So my dorkati, dor katua. What do we mean? It's a generation that's been cut off. So Omer Rabbi Chanina, tanchumim shel hevel nichbar b'gemuel oisai. She actually gave him words of foolish or folly when it comes to these words of comfort. The Tani Rabbi Chia kashem shahasor yafel isa, just like sourdough is good for dough, kach damim yafel isha. So to a woman that shows damim, that's actually a good sign. It means that her body is healthy and she's probably able to easily get pregnant. The Tani mishemer meir kol isha shedamah merubin b'nei merubin. If you have a lot of dam, that means it's a good indicator. Again, you're going to probably have children. Itmar, Rabbi Yomi barabo aimer zachem mechacha. You said you should again be celebrating over this mekach. Armalev Rabbi Yosi baravin omer nischayim mechacha. He says it's not a good thing. So Armalev bishul mamandir nischayim hainu Rabbi Chanino. We said why it's not a good thing to have a woman who does not show dam. What's the good thing about that? What positive thing is there? Your answer is interesting. Because you're never going to have a suffix of nida. So, in case, did she see enough dam? Was it enough to be chayev or not? So you never have to worry about that because she'll never see dam. Again, I didn't see dam. Again, she says, I'm Masula. It happened to me, it was the time of famine. She saw that their faces were dark, namely that they were starving. So they commanded, they brought them to the bathhouse, she ate and drank, and they went into a private room. On this, he read upon him this pasuk, Safad Oyram, that the clinging of the skin al atzmam on yourself, Yavish hayakates, they were dry like wood. So again, the point is that it was a clear indicator that the reason why she couldn't see dam was because of health reasons, and therefore for that he was able to decipher. Next mission, Basula Ksubas Masayim El Manamana. Now a Basula, her Ksub is 200, and Almana is only 100. Basula, for that matter, as long as she's a Basula still, even if she's an Almana, Gerush, V'chalutzim, and Erison, as long as she was either a widow, divorced, or had chalitza from the time of Erison, which means that she obviously was not miyachid with her husband, Ksuv Asa Masayim, it's still 200, Vesha Hentain is Basulim. And there's still Taina Basulim because it's assumed that she's still a Basula. Gemara asks, on a play of words, my almana. Somer Rav Chana Bagta, almana al shem mana. So he says it's over here. This is actually not the first time we hear the word Bagta, but over here it says Demin Bagdat. So maybe from Baghdad. So why is she called almana? Because it's al shem mana. That as a widow she will only now be entitled to 100. Almana min erisimay kameimar. I thought we said that she gets 200. The truth is, you're right. An almana min erison is still entitled to 200 zuz. Almana deksibu reisamay kameimar. How about the almana that's written in the Torah? So the asid and rabbanan the masakni leimana. It's telling us that in the future they instituted something in which they will be giving 100. So even though the truth is the Torah wrote and talks about an almana before this currency came about, nonetheless the Torah was alluding to this happening in the future. Umi kasav krol asid. So the Torah actually writes something for something in the future. In dechsiv v'shem hanahar shlishi chidek elhu. referring to the third river is the Chidekel, who Hoylech Kimas Usher. V'tana Rav Yosef Usher Zu Sleika. This is the name of a city. Mi Havi El Diasida Hachanam Diasida. So it will happen in the future. So too it will happen in the future. So this is the question 10. Heichem Etzina B'Tayra Kosav Al Shem Osid. So Almana Al Shem Diasidin Rabbanan the Mesachni Leimana Hahelech Kinmas Ashur V'Lo Haya Adayin Benuya. That city was not yet built. Okay. Weiter in the Gemara. So the Gemara says like this: the Omer Rav Chana Bagtal Matar. When it comes to rain, what qualities does it have? So mashke, it causes liquid. Marve, mazavel, it causes things to grow and to become fertilized. Ma'adein, and it causes the fruit to shine. Mamshich, and for fruit to grow. So Amar Rava Bar Rabbi Shmuel Vitam Rabbi Yemer Bar Shalmi Mikra Telameha Rave, referring to its ridges, it was saturated. Naches Gedudeha B'Revivim Ti Moigigena Simcha Tivarich. So referring to the calmness of the furrows, which are abundant in its growth, they are blessed. Amar Belezer Mizbeach. What is the notion of what a mizbeach is? Well, it's meziach. It removes a person's sins. Umezin, it also satiates. Mechaviv, it brings love. Mechaper and atonement. Hainu mechaper, hainu meziach. So meziach gezeros, that it removes gezeros. So mechaper avonos, and your atones for sins. Tamrei, when it comes to dates, they're mashchanon, they warm up people. Maspan, they satiate. Mishalshalon, it causes a person shulshul to be able to use the bathroom. Mashron, says Rashi, machzikas koyach, it gives you strength. Vol mafankon, it doesn't make a person into a mafunik person. Amrab achal tamarim, if a person eats dates, al yoyra, you should not paskin. Why? Says Rashi, al yoyra shum hara lafi shitardos daito kashikr. Because when a person eats a lot of dates, it actually has this effect in one's mind comparable to that of alcohol. Meisvei tamarim, when it comes to eating dates, shachas or arvis, morning at night, yafos, it's very good, says Rashi. Kol the milsel achar achil yafos. After you eat, it's good. But mincha rois, but sarayim in kamaisan, there's nothing like them. Umavatal shleish devarim, machshavara, is mavatal a bad thought. V'chayli mayim, any digestive illnesses. V'tachtainius, and also things that are in the digestive tract, like in the intestines. So l'chayru, we see they're good. So when it says miyamin indul malu, we're not saying they're not good for you. Ilui malu, it's true, dates are good. However, if shaita tirda, at certain times it could be troublesome for you to eat, and it could again affect your mind, like alcohol. Midi havi achamra has the same din as the way that wine works. Yomamar hashayser v'yisayin al yaira. Same thing. If you drink a small amount of wine, even though wine does have positive qualities, however, you drink a certain amount of wine, you're not to paskin. It's all totally when you consume it, before you have bread or afterwards. The Rabbi, Amruli Aim, Abaya's mother said, who took care of him, Tamri, when it comes to eating dates, before you eat bread, Kinarga with dikula. It's as bad as an axe going to a date palm tree. So you should not eat dates before you have bread on an empty stomach. However, bas in the hamad, after you already eat bread, ki avril dasha, it's like a bolt on the door. Dasha, what's the significance of the word dash, which is a door? So marava, derech sham, this means that this is the way to go there. Darga, which is a ladder. So marava derech gag, because the word, this is the way to get to the roof. Puria, which is a bed. Amar papa shiparin v'rabban aleha, that a person will procreate on that area, so therefore it's given that name because that's its purpose. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, as we conclude by turning to Yud Aleph Amud Aleph, Af Anu Noimer Ionis. We know an Ionis is a woman who does not show any signs of maturity and is incapable of having children. So we say, what is an Ionis? It's a Duchranis Shel Delo Yolda. Duchranis, Rashi says, is an aisle, a male ram. And just obviously a male ram is not capable of getting pregnant, so too this woman, which is why she's given this term Ionis. TA 24. Almana diksiva b'roisa madua nikros kain. Why is a woman called an almana? Question TA 24. It sounds like a softball. Al shem shasidim chazal l'sakin shiksubasamana. Indeed, so the fact that in the future, they're going to call her she's going to receive $100, an almana is mana, so therefore that's the reason why it has, she was given that name. TB 25. Mihi ha'mayla, what is shel hanaisa ishim in mishpachas durkati umag yuryasa? What is the good thing about marrying such a woman, and what is the negative thing? These women who cannot have no dam nida or dam basulim. So the good thing is you're not going to ever come lidei safek nida. However, the negative thing is an ish didomeha muatin boneha muatin. That if a person doesn't show dam, that will potentially show her inability or difficulty in having multiple children, and therefore for that reason it's not a good thing. Ad kam.